This is the talk. First of all, I'm a little, this is a talk to a non-rail fan audience in the sense that normally things like this we discuss with fellow railway enthusiasts who are very familiar with the terminology or who are familiar with the landscape, etc., etc. But this is probably for the first time where I'm speaking to somebody, some of you who may not be railway enthusiasts or who may have very limited uh, exposure to railways. But no, if you're from Mumbai, then I think railways is an integral part of your life, and you all are, as Indians, are railway enthusiasts. So let me take this forward now. The topic of my talk is not the entire Bhor Ghats, though I'll be giving you an overview, but the lower Bhor Ghats, because Bhor Ghat is distributed in many sections, and it's too large a topic to speak in one session. So this is the result of 3, 4, 5 walks that we've had in the section. What makes this an intrigue is that it is a very remote place and not many people go there. So let me start. The hidden realm of familiar landscapes. Lakhs of people used to travel pre-COVID through this section, and but not many people can tell you what the structures that you see or why was it built, who built it, and how does it actually operate. So I'm going to give you an overview of the Bhor Ghat, which will help you to appreciate the entire section better. And I'm going to talk specifically about the first 8 kilometers from the Mumbai end. So let's go. Um, okay. Uh, it's not one person's view. It is a joint effort by many people. My thanks to late Dr. Ian Kerr, who was a historian. He wrote 5 books about Indian Railways, uh, and he passed in December 2020. He had written so much about the history of Bhor Ghats, but he had never seen it. I mean, he had passed through it, but he never put his feet on the ground. So it was up to us. All know Rajendra Aklekar, who's a journalist and a historian from Mumbai. So he put him in touch and he said that you please take Dr. Kerr to show him the ghats. So we showed him the ghats in 2014. And our thanks are also to Central Railway engineers, Sheili May and Vevhare, who helped me out with a lot of details. He said that this is wrong. Some details are not, because all of this is, postulation. You're looking at something and then you are trying to figure out, could it be like this? Is it how it happened? You look at old photographs, you look at current photographs, and then you try to figure out some sense. And like I told you, that this is not one person show. And these are the people who have helped me in this thing. So it's a joint presentation by all of us. I come on the top because my surname starts with B, but otherwise all of us are equally important. There's also this disclaimer that there is a lot of postulation and hypothesis. So I may be somewhat right, I may be completely wrong, I may be mostly right. That's for future to tell. So let's go. So uh, this is how it looks. This belongs to you. This is the Bhor Ghat. This is a view of the section between Monkey Hill and Thakurwadi. This is opposite. There's a river called Ullas, which flows at the back of Karjat. It goes back of Kalyan, and it opens up near Vaitarna. That Vaitarna 1 and 2 are the extension of the Ullas River. So this is across the Ullas River valley, which has its origins in Khandala. So this is what you will see now. These viaducts that you see are 1856, around that age. But we are not going to talk about that. That's in another talk. So let me explain to you in a stick map. You come from Mumbai, you come from Kalyan. There are 2 tracks which go into Karjat. And there is also a new track which comes from Panvel and it goes to Karjat. Okay. And Karjat to Palesdari are 3 tracks which are bi-directional. At Palesdari, 1 track goes to Khapoli, which is a single line track. This was the oldest track in India, in the sense that initially the railways went up to Khapoli. And then from Khapoli, you would have to take a palki or a horse or walk up to Khandala, because this section was under construction, and that was the only way to go. So the first train actually went to Khapoli instead of anywhere else. And when the ghat was constructed, it was constructed here: Jamrung, Thakurwadi, Monkey Hill, Khandala, Lonavala, and to Pune. So this was the old section. There are two tracks between Jamrung, Thakurwadi, Monkey Hill, Khandala. These are all. Then there is a one single track which is used only by the descending traffic. It goes to a cabin called Nagnath, which is literally opposite to Thakurwadi, and it meets at the place this called Jamrung. Now, why are they separated? Because there is a big mountain here in the middle. Sorry. Uh, let's go back. So, another thing, these two tracks were the old tracks, in the sense that the one which was built in Victorian times, and this one was built in 1980. So two different ages are shown in this view. Secondly, when you look at when you talk to railway people, they'll always talk of up train and down train. So a train which is going away from its headquarters, so our headquarters is in Mumbai, is a down train. So even if it is climbing in the bottom gear, full throttle, it is still a down train. And the train which is like crawling down a very steep slope is the up train. So there is a slight reversal of sense, but that's the way it is. So this is the down track. This one, one of the two tracks is the down track. This track which comes like this is the up track, and there is a second track here which is the bidirectional mid track. And normally the trains which climb go on the down track, and the trains which descend could come down either by the up track, or they could take the middle track, which is a bidirectional track. Um, okay, so now looking at the functionality of Bhor Ghat, it's a 27-kilometer section from Karjat to Lonavala, and the proper ghat section actually starts here from Palasdari. Our talk consists of only this section, the one which is marked in orange. This is 8 kilometer long, and this contains a lot of history. Uh, in future talks, we'll be covering this section, this section, this section, in different things, because uh, it's only from a railway point of view. See, what happens is it's only fools like us who have the intention to go there and look at what we are seeing. Railways, they are the experts in operating the trains, but they don't have that much time to devote to history. Historians don't have enough interest in railways to go there. So it's people like us, the rail fans, who have to do this job. Okay, so um, this is also called Khandala Ghat, especially by people who are from Pune. They think of it as Khandala, but Khandala is only here. It's the first 5-6 kilometers, which is very beautiful. You have waterfalls, you have fog, you have ferns, you have very beautiful monkeys, everything very nice. Rest of the Bhor Ghat is pretty horrible, actually. It's hot, it's humid, it's very remote. If you are in this section and you say, no, I want to stop walking, you don't have a choice. You have to trek enormous distances to get out of it. So going in is very easy. You get into a train coming from Pune, it will halt at 3 places, you can get off. But how will you get out? So that's why it deters a lot of people from actually exploring, unless you are fools like us, freaks like us, who are railway enthusiasts, who say, okay, now we want to see what it is and to explain what it is. Okay, so what does the Bhor Ghat do? Mumbai is sea level, and by the time you come to Karjat, it is something 40 meters or something. But Lonavala is 660 meters. So it has to climb that altitude in a short span of 27 kilometers. And it is the Sahyadri mountains which actually separate the coastal Konkan belt from the rest of the hinterland. So in a very short spell of distance, you have to climb through the mountains and get on the other side. This was an ancient trade route. It existed for millenniums. So, but to make a railway through it, because railways are steel on steel. So the coefficient of addition, there is a limit to it. Otherwise, it'll just start slipping. So 1 in 27 is the limit that we have for addition work train, and that's what is applied here. 1 in 37. Sorry, 1 in 37 is the limit, and this is a pretty busy section because all trains to Pune, all trains to Chennai, all trains to Hyderabad, all trains to Bangalore would have to pass through this section. Um, Pre COVID, about 125 train movements took place in 24 hours every day. And then you had the banking locomotives which went back and forth. Banking is a process to push the trains up the slope. That's done to help the train in the steep gradient, also as a safety measure, that if you know if a coupling is to fail, the train has got coupling between the coaches, and if the coupling is to fail, the coach might roll back. So instead of that, you push it from the rear. So even if you have a single coach which is being pushed up, and we have photographs of a single coach, two coaches which are being pushed up, and it is always helped at the rear from two, three, four locomotives from the back. Okay. So I've told you about the tracks. I've told you about the sections and the various stations on the way. Okay, this is how it looks. There's a special history about this place. This is a place called Jamrung Kebin. So Jamrung Kebin used to be a viaduct called Mauki Malli. So if you read the old historical documents, you'll hear of Mauki Malli viaduct, which collapsed in the late 1890s. We'll talk about it in detail. If you can see in the distance, you can actually see the Ullas River going there. And this is the Songiri mountain. So we will discuss Songiri mountains because it actually deflects the tracks in a direction. It's all these mountains which come in the way, which force the tracks to take certain alignments. So we'll talk about that. Okay. This is there are a lot of tunnels in this section. I've shown you the three tracks. Now, if you look at this, so now, like I said, that every climbing train is a down train. So one down, two down, three down, etc. You'll see seven, and then there is certainly nine, whereas eight is in the middle. And you'll be wondering why this happens. Why would you have such odd numbering? That is because the railways depend the track mileage from Mumbai CST, which is kilometer zero. So due to curvatures or due to sharp turns on the inner side of a curve, this particular kilometers is ahead. So you have 9 here, and sorry, you have 7 here and 8 here. That's the way it is. So these are the tunnels of the section. So you have Palasdhari, you have the line to Khopoli, you have these 3 tracks, and these are the number of tunnels which are here. Out of which this particular 19 number tunnel is it holds 2 tracks. Rest all are single line tunnels here. Okay, so this is we're looking at an ancient map, and I'll just want to relate this, that this is actually I talked to you about Songiri Fort, which is here now. They call it Songiri. Nevali is, this is from 1860s. This map is from 1860s. Some names may be distorted for Victorian pronunciation, but I'll just explain to you the section. So Nevali is still there. Nevali Gao is still there. Bhir is called Bhir. Bhir is the Gao, and Vani is it's called Vani in this map. And this trackage, this 1 mile, is all from Palasdhari. So the this all these kilometers are from, or these mileages are from where that's where the hard section starts, and people have to, because between Karjat and Palasdhari is actually the Karjat yard. It's a flat land along the Ullas River. This particular map is an ancient map from late 1880s, 1890s. Some of the names have different spellings now, but essentially all these things are still there. So Nevari Gao is here. This is the track to Khopoli. So it's called Kampoli in this map, but that's where it is. And I've given the link to where this map is taken from. And this particular dotted line is the ancient trade walking way. So we haven't really walked because now the thing is very distorted. This is the way ancient traders who used to come from hinterland to Mumbai. They used to go not so much to Mumbai, but they used to go to the port near Panvel, because that's where it is. And so they used to take, and you find a lot of historical documents which show you people who have, from Panvel port, they can see the views of Bhor Ghats, or they can see the mountains of the Ghats. So uh, that this could have been the easier way of, rather than going all the way to our regular regular ports of Mumbai. Okay, so Bheed is it's called Bheer now. Bheed is the current town. This thing called Maukimalli is a viaduct. It used to be uh, uh, now. It's literally four people in the whole world know why it is called Maukimalli. Uh, I am one of them, but I won't tell you, because Rajendra Aklekar in his next book is going to reveal you why it is called Mokimalli. It is, we thought, we went to the villagers who live in this Vanigao and this place. So I said, why, how many years have you been living? So they said, no, 4 or 5 generations we've been here. So I said, this place was called Mokimalli. He said, we have never heard of it. You're the first person who's telling us. I said, no, 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 it's called in the historical documents. So they said, no, no, it's called either Jamrung or Jamruk, or it's called Beed, or it's called Jamruk Khurd, the other side. We have never heard of a name called Mokimali. And he said it could be some sort of a name for Monkey Hill. So we went on a tangent, and then we thought, okay, like, British had this thing, they used to call it by anglicized names. And there could be some places, and we have seen a lot of distortion of history. Some historian who was in the British army or something, East India Company, and then he was feverish and he wrote something wrong, and that becomes the history of India, sadly. So we were thinking that they made a mistake of calling a place near Monkey Hill by Monkey, called as a Monkey Mali, which could be the local name. But no, that is not the case. The answer is very, very clear. But that Rajendra Klekar will tell you next year. So let's wait for that. Then Kumi Hill is Khamni Hill, that is called Khamni. Thakurwada is Thakurwadi, that is still there. You can see that this thing. So let's go to the next part of the map. I've just scanned it. So Thakurwadi is here. Gambarnath is Gambhirnath. Now, Gambhirnath, there is a cave here. Even if you go today, there's an ancient cave in which still a lot of religious people stay, and you can climb in from this to this, and this entire mountain is called Natsa Dongar, or Gambhir Natsa Dongar. So that is Gambhirnath is what they're calling here, and this is the railway track which is coming here. Nath Khind is obviously Khind uh, cutting, which is between this and the next mountain is called Bheran Plateau or Bhediachi Tekde. So that is the next one. By this time, this track, which is going to Khapoli, has reached Kampoli. And if you look at the next section of the map, there is this is a mention of Bhor. Even we do not know why it is called Bhor Ghats, but either Bhor, BOR, BHORE, all are okay. Railways calls it Bhor Ghat, BHOR, and we stick by the railways name. Now, you have come as far as Gambhirnath, and there is this mountain called Shibi Hill, which should be Shivba Hill, because there is a Shiv temple on top of this mountain, and this is the famous Monkey Hill. I'll show you views of the current Monkey Hill, but um, there is a Shiv temple on the top, and that is probably why it's got this name called Shivbi. Battery Hill was one place where the person overlooking the project had a bungalow. That bungalow still exists. It's at the in along the road, Bhor Ghat Road. Um, Fiston Point is where what is today's Tiger Point, where people go and see views of the Ullas River. This is the Ullas River which is coming here, and this is the reversing station, which we'll talk in detail. And then the track goes to Khandala station, and then it goes to Pune, and this again, the dot is probably the walking track. I don't know for sure, but we have to find out. I've got a detailed view of the next section, where you see how the tracks were laid around Khandala. I'll come to a detail about this thing. Why was this required? Okay. So now you are coming from Mumbai side, and there were there's a mountain here which you couldn't cross. I mean, basically, for railways or to dig three tunnels and connect directly, uh, it was becoming a problem. At the same time, railways inland, ahead of Pune, were already in progress. So they said, okay, let's start the services, and side by side we'll start building it. They had something called a reversing station, which is what is known as the Amrutanjan Bridge or the Sakha Bridge. The express highway used to go below under it, and so the train would come from Bombay. It would come onto this, reverse, and then it would go into this tunnel, which is 24. I'll just tell you what the importance is. Tunnel number 25, and then it would reach Pune. This was the original route, but this meant that your train had to be reversed and then taken this. This tunnel is the tunnel that you have in your expressway. There are two tunnels. Uh, Older people who have used the road will remember that there was a single tunnel before the expressway, and they would also remember that there was a small tunnel here. So basically, the road from Khandala to the this road tunnel was a railway track, and which is why you find that the gradient is very, very gradual. It's very, very nice, and so along the Ullas Valley, you had this particular railway track. And if you look at a film like Choti Si Baat, Amol Palekar gets off on the left of on the north side of Khandala station, and then he goes under the parked railway carriages, and you can see this track which existed until a third line in the 80s was built, which comes later. Okay, coming back to the issue without this thing. So in 1926, they constructed three tunnels. This is the tunnel number 3, which is below the expressway today. So this tunnel, then this tunnel, and this one is at the mouth of Khandala station. So as your train leaves Pune and goes to from Khandala to Mumbai, there is a tunnel here. Now we can discuss this later in a different presentation, but we have done a lot of work here. This is this tunnel. This tunnel being dinner served here is this. Now this tunnel is at the mouth of Khandala, and the names here. This is Walchand Hirachand. Walchand Hirachand was the general manager of Tata Sons. He went on. This name is important because that will come again in a future slide. And anybody who thinks that the British built a lot of it, yes, they initiated a thing, but actually the contractors and the workers and all that were all Indian. So we were building railways in those times. So this is the opening ceremony. This is the modern view. Okay. Let me come back to this. Can you see this plaque just barely before and above this guy's head? And this is the plaque which exists today. And this is Dr. Ian Kerr, whom I talked in the first slide. And this is Ashish, this is Jayant, this is Lalam, and obviously I'm behind the camera. But this is the way the tunnel looks today. This is the up track, and this is the bidirectional mid track. And this is the view from 2014. Okay. I'd like to take, draw different timelines for the Bhor Ghats. 1850s, 1856, we call it as Alice Treadwell years. Who's Alice Treadwell and why is she important? I'll just come to you in a future slide. So there was the construction of double-lined ghat section. There were two tracks. They started the operation. 1926-29, you eliminated the reversing station, which is this Amrutanjan bridge sort of a thing. 1929, the track got electrified. It was the first track in India to get electrification. And part of reversal of the reversing station being eliminated was because electric locos could not take kindly to being reversed, and so that's one thing. 1950s, we call it as Buckley years. So Casey Buckley was one person who was probably instrumental in separation of the two tracks. we'll be seeing this in detail, but just these are the timelines that we are going to follow. And so separation of the okay, I'll tell you what the background is. When railways were launched in India, we had British uh, hardware, in the sense that the coaches were British style, but they were built to 5 foot 6 inches gauge, which is the Indian broad gauge. But the coach was narrow. So when India got independence, 1947, the first thing we said that railways is the most important form of transportation for us, and how do we um, modernize it. So they said we need to get better coaches, and we looked at a lot of vendors, and we settled for one company in Switzerland. Schlieren Elevator Company is the name of the company, and they gave the technology to build those things in India. And those coaches were broader than the British coaches which were running in that time. And those coaches, as in India, people are latkofying outside, and two trains side by side, the people collided and died. So there was an accident which caused a loss of life. So it was decided that the track centers, instead of 14 feet, should be taken to 15.6 feet. Now there's not enough place in the existing alignment for that. So Buckley put up a new alignment, and he separated these two tracks. So around 1950, that job was done. 1980s, we realized that two tracks are not enough for such a critical section. So we needed a third track, which was built in 1980s to increase the track capacity. And 2010, there was, initially Mumbai, Pune, Mumbai, Igatpuri was 1.5 kV DC. That was the voltage of the overhead 1500 volt DC. And that got converted to 25,000 volt AC. Now, that is the standard which the rest of the country follows, because India, doesn't have oil. It doesn't have, but it's got a lot of coal. We can make electricity. There's no problem about it. So 25,000 volts AC to the national, this thing that we should have electrification. So that is what we did here. 2020, something very sad happened, but that's also a timeline of the Bhor Ghats, which I'll just show you in the next slide. This is the reversing station, the thing. Array. This is the reversing station. This is the short. This is from Khapoli. You're looking at the top of the reversing station, and this is the amount of altitude the train climbed in 27 kilometers. So this is the sort of gradient we had to cover. And in the middle of the shutdown due to COVID, they just demolished this thing. When the highway was being built, they very well knew that this was a heritage structure, and you couldn't. Demolish a heritage structure, but because no conservationists could go to the court and stop the demolition, nothing. So the government just did it for the sake of the highway. Even a person who knows very little like me can tell you that you can build a highway around it, but they didn't do it. So sadly, this structure is gone. um, okay. Now this is Alice Treadwell. Now why is she important? Is because she was a contractor. The Bhor Ghat was built by a lady. So what happened is, her husband Solomon Treadwell took the contract from GIPR, Great Indian Peninsula Railway, to build this ghat section, and he died 15 days after coming to India due to cholera. So what happened is, she said we'll continue, and but of course she was just the titular head of the operation. She didn't do it. There were other people. There is Adamson and Clauser. They were the subcontractors who did the job on the ground. And she went back to Britain, and she died there later. And when the work was on, that time there were 25,000 people who were working on the section. So we will see the details of that. um, this was a very difficult working in literally a territory which was completely unmapped. This is a photo from the 1856. This is what is the viaduct one, which is in use today also. And the landscape was difficult. It was completely uncharted. There were heavy monsoons. There was disease. There were a lot of accidents, industrial accidents. You took the help. You were using local people. Um, There were wild animals. There were no machines. Very primitive tools. Very surprisingly, lack of water was one of the reasons which hampered quick building of the railways. Now, during the monsoons, there is obviously an abundance of rain, but in summer months or non-monsoon months, what getting water was very difficult. And history says that there were 32 different classes of artisans. There were driller miners, there were masons, there was a trade called battiwala. Now, battiwala is obviously one who works with battis. That means the people who light the explosives. Then you had storekeepers, timekeepers, interpreters, filemen, plate layers, trumpeters, because there was no means of communication. So I could just, use my bugle to communicate what was to be done. And that is for mustering people or getting them together. You had thatchers, your harness makers, and you had obviously the coolies who had to travel 15 to 20 miles every day, and that is 24 to 32 kilometers. They walked that much every day with a head load, and they carried a huge amount of earthwork uh, to dig into these things. So this is how it looked like in construction. Um, because of the difficult working conditions, as much as 25% of the workforce was ill at any one time. And at the end of the construction, around 33% of the workforce actually died in 8 years. So it's a huge human cost that we don't recognize, we don't appreciate in a way, that these are the people who have died to ensure that this thing completed. Of course, they didn't know what they were doing. They had got a job, they were doing it. But you can, just travel in comfort today because of their sacrifice. This is how it looks today. This is 2010, so it's also ancient. But this is the same viaduct one. This is the another view. You can see this is the Sahyadri Express from Kolhapur, and you can see another train which is climbing, which is on another track. So this is very much in operation 24/7. Another structure that you see here are these overhead pylons, which are there from the time of GIPR. There are two feeders. One is called Southeast 1 and one is called Southeast 2. So these two feeders took electricity from Mumbai all the way to Ghorpadi in Pune for the overhead electrification. And if you look at the old towers, you actually find GIPR tags on them. And those tags are still intact in the sense they didn't rust in 2010-12 when we went there. Now, of course, we have two different types of towers, and these towers don't carry the wires anymore. But in 2010, they were being used. I'd show you a track map of what the Treadwell years look like. You had two tracks, so you went through co-joint tunnels. So 1, 2 is one track. Um, I'll talk about this A2 tunnel there. 3, 4, 5 is a co-joint tunnel. So you have three tunnels which are joined with a break in the middle. Uh, why you did that? Again, okay, going back. Now here is Songiri mountain on the top. So to divert around it, it made a sharp turn on one, towards the valley. This side is the valley, this side is the mountain. And you had co-joint tunnel 6, 7. You had the viaduct number 1, whose construction views you just saw. Then you had one more tunnel here, one more viaduct here, another tunnel here, and then you have three viaducts, one after another. So this is a double line section. This tunnel doesn't exist today, so we are not sure of the number, but the other tunnels are still in place. We'll see why this A2 tunnel is special later on. Now, as you can see, this track takes a sharp turn towards the valley to avoid mountains, and this is the view. This is the view today. That this is the track which is turning. This is the track which will be on the viaducts. So one track goes straight and one track turns sharply. So this is probably the place that we are looking at. And by the tunnel numbers, it matches. So this is it. You can also see this thing when I told you that different tracks have different kilometer values. So this 46, 47, they're very close to each other, but they have different numbers. That is because from Mumbai, the length is different. Um, another now you can see that this tunnel is pretty high. That is because you're looking at the base of a viaduct under construction, and this is of course temporary lines for construction. and this is the southwestern portal of tunnel number 9. And just keep a lookout for this portal. Remember this shape of the portal, and this is the same portal which we seeing in 2015. We saw this section again, and I'm actually standing on top of this viaduct number 2. And uh, the way it was built, it is still in use. uh, Very, very heavy trains use this train section. Almost one every 15-20 minutes a train would go on this, and it's working very well, not a problem. Okay. I want to show you the markings on the inside the tunnel. So the one which is engraved, the one which is in the number 9 is the old tunnel number, and 17 up is the new tunnel number. So a lot of places you find in the old tunnel, especially, and we have to keep a track of these markings also. Uh, this is viaduct number 2. Now viaduct number 2 has got filled up arches, so that's another thing. And this is another season, so you'll see familiar landscape in different seasons. In the middle of the rains, you'll see it in dry season. So this is one of the, we had done a trek in April, so it was very hot. So this is a valley side view of the viaduct number 2, showing you the arched, they've filled the arches. What you see here is one of the specialities of this ghat. This brown colored locomotive is actually hauling an oil train down slope. Now, there are three locomotives which normally push the trains up the ghat. So now they are pushing the trains, they're actually braking the trains when it is rolling down the ghat. So that is one of the functions of these particular locomotives. Second thing is that this is an oil train which is carrying petrol. It may carry diesel or something like that. So you have a support wagon on either side. I'm just, as a railway enthusiast, I must feed you my gyan also. So wherever you have a train carrying dangerous stuff, you always have one wagon between you and the locomotive, between that and the load and the locomotive. In case there is a frontal collision, then this guy should take the brunt. That's what it is. uh, Standard practice now is that they put a brake van in the front and a brake van in the rear, and so it is exchangeable, and there's no further shunting required. But that's how it is. So this is what is seen in this, the arches. I'll show you another view of the same viaduct from across the thing. So you have, these are the arches which are here, and you have two of these WCAG2 locomotives. These are special locomotives. They are ACDC, and they are meant for freight operation. There are only 10 of them, so they are very rare. And you can tell apart from the WCM3, where there are 50 of them, by the stripes. There are two stripes, so this is the WCAG1. That's how we realize. Okay. Uh, there's a third viaduct, which is here. And this is how it looks today. A very beautiful place to go for a walk if you're a railway enthusiast. This is the same viaduct from the valley side. Now, this one arch is filled up, rest is not filled up. And we were told by the Central Railway people that this particular hut, anybody who's sitting in a train and looking out will see these unusual structures with, uh, they've got a curved roof. They've been there since my childhood. So we've always wondered why, how do you have such sturdy buildings here? So it turned out that they were for storing explosive. That's what uh, we were told. I'm not sure, which is I put a question mark, but those are also part of our heritage. Those are also part of our history, and one day we will visit them and see and give you views from inside. We are now climbing up. We have seen viaduct number 1, 2, 3. Now we have come to this place which is famously known as Mokimalli or Khami. That is the name of the mountain. Now this is Songiri mountain at the back, and was the tallest viaduct in that section in those times. Again, 1850s, 1860s, around that time. And it was built, a lot of accidents, a lot of people died. Um, uh, this is another view of the Mokimali viaduct. This is the view of the lower Bhor Ghats when it was finished in its prime, let's say. So you can see a number of viaducts here. You can see a tiny train. I wonder if you can see it here. It's so that's the scale of the thing, and the gradient. This is of course Songiri mountain once again, so you can relate to what we are looking at. And there's a pass in Austria called Semmering Pass. They said that, yeah. So this is more challenge than the Semmering Pass, is what the historians used to say, the British historians, um, and it really is. Okay. Now this is again the famous Mauki viaduct, but it didn't last very long because it fell down. I mean, it just broke up. So this is, of course, the Ullas River going. It was groaning, and the people who used to live below said that the bridge is in pain, and it would groan every time a train would go. So it failed within 4 years of its operation. Fortunately, a train passed, and then it fell. And the train which passed, the driver stopped the train, and he ran back on the other side, and he stopped another train coming. So there was no loss of life, but the contact between Mumbai and the rest of India was lost, and it was a major emergency for the GIPR, the Great Indian Peninsular Railway, to restore connectivity. So this is one accident which happened. Now I'm going to show you a set of drawings which explain to you what the British did to recover from the situation. Um, this is the bridge which broke. Uh, the document, this is the document which I have a credit here. This is the reconstruction of Monkimalli Viaduct. So they took two bridge girders which were coming from England into India for some other bridge, and they fitted them here. And this is the new alignment. So I just want to show you. Uh, I mean, knowing the bridges in the section, uh, if you went from Mumbai to Pune, then you could go to Hyderabad, you could go to Chennai, you could go to Bangalore. No, you couldn't go to Bangalore. In those times, so how many major bridges exist in that section? Only Krishna near Raichur. I do not see any other major river. So probably this part of the history is wrong. Probably these girders were from the Thal Ghat, that is from Kasara to Igatpuri. There is a Egaon viaduct. That Egaon viaduct also has got such similar steel structures. So maybe this history was wrong. We don't know. We'll keep a track on that. And what I will so these are the buttresses for the new bridge, and this is the view. I just want to show you something else. Uh, while this bridge was being built, they couldn't keep the train traffic from running. So what they did is, in this valley, they laid a temporary track, and they this track went into the valley, and it came up again. So they made again a reversing station here, and they sent two wagons at a time. By gravity they would come here, then they will stop, and there was a stationary engine which must be a winch, so it would pull the two coaches up, and then there would be another stationary engine at this end which will pull them this side. Now if I had not read this document, I would say, okay, this is a figment of imagination, aisa koi karta nahi hai. But they had done it, and this is there in a document, and here is the reference of the document. Now you can't see the details here, but there are two circles on this track. This is not to Pune. So this is from Bombay, this is to Pune. So now these two circles are actually turntables. So you had tiny wagons in that time. You had only four coaches. So those four coaches the four wheelers will come here. They'll turn on the turntable, and then they'll get aligned and then sent. So that's how they carried on the traffic for um, 1 year, 1.5 years, till this new repurposed girders were laid, and the bridge was intact once again. But that bridge also did not last. I'm not sure of what happened after the history, but they converted that into an embankment, and this is how it looks today. This is the embankment in which either they have taken off the girders, or the girders are still buried inside. We don't know. But this is how the Monkey Mali Viaduct looks. This is, of course, the new track, 1980 it has come from Nagnath. And this is the Jamrung Kebin. This is again the Songiri Hill. And these are the two old tracks which are going to Thakurwadi. So this is how it looks today. We are now looking at the tunnels between the two viaducts. Again, it's just views to show you how it looks. you will notice that this thing is very, very wide. And you're right, there were two tracks here, which have now become one track, which we'll see later. Okay. Again, uh, ancient tunnels, co-joint tunnels, and we were very lucky to be able to walk through this. Um, is it legal? No, it is not legal. Are we willing to be caught and prosecuted? Yes, we are, because we are railway enthusiasts and we have very few interests apart from railways. So that's what it is. Will I encourage anybody else to go? No, it's not my call to ask you to go. But if you're a railway enthusiast, you're not going to stop if I'm going to ask you to stop. So that's the way it is. Okay, so this is how it looks, a co-joint tunnel. Why do you co-join tunnels? First of all, the locomotives in those times were all steam locomotives, so a lot of smoke, a lot of steam. So you needed places to ventilate. But actually, what happened is that if you have a co-joint tunnel, you start working from that face, you start working from the other face, and here you create another face. So another team of people will start working on this face and this face. So instead of two faces, now you have four faces, and that helps you to increase the amount of productivity. And that's why you had co-joint tunnels. uh, this is how it looks when you look out of the co-joint tunnels. As a railway enthusiast, I feel very touched that I'm able to go to these places, touch part of heritage, touch part of history, discover things which are never documented before, and contribute to the general understanding of what it is. um, Railways doesn't have a historian as such, so it's our job to ensure that this thing remains, it goes into documentation and is available for general public to see and understand. It shouldn't be something which I hold close to my heart just for money. No, it should be available. You should be able to see it. You should be able to understand what you saw. Suppose you go by a train and you see something unusual, then you should be able to ask the question, what is it that I saw? In Britain, there are literally thousands of railway enthusiasts who document every little nut bolt. In India, we have a fairly large group of enthusiasts, but somebody who's interested in history, somebody who's willing to take the efforts, the younger people will certainly do it, but we will continue to do it as long as we can. Okay, so this is about the tunnels in the lower Bhor Ghat. I want to show you one special tunnel. The tunnel called A by 2, which is the second tunnel. Now, we believe it's an afterthought because the numbering doesn't match. So, and we believe that this is something called a cut and cover. Now, you can see the top of the mountain is just here. So, why do you need a tunnel? You could just make a cutting. But I believe that the hill which is on this side would be, there would be landslides, there'll be mud slides, there'll be water flowing. So you just cover it, let the thing go from the top, and that's how probably this particular tunnel came into place. And it looks like an afterthought because the numbering goes out of scale. Others is 1 2 3 4, and then suddenly you have a by 2, and it's a different tunnel. And you find some sort of slots in the in the face of the tunnel, which I will show you in another presentation. Those slots are probably that you slide in barriers and don't allow a mudslide to come inside the tunnel. It's possible. It's just hypothesis. We look at something and then we try to understand, why do you think it happened, or what do you think this is? And then we have our very bright friends who say, okay, this is what could have happened, and that's what I'm putting in front of you. Okay. This is the grotto between tunnel 1 and 2. Very beautiful place, very nice place to go to. First tunnel of Bhor Ghats. This is the space which exists, and this is about the line which was built originally. There were two tracks, now there is only one track. It was built in the 1850s to 1860s, in that period. Then we go to the 1950s, which we call as Buckley years. People in railways have taken objection to that. He says that Buckley was just he was the chairman of railway board at that time. He was a very experienced bureaucrat, and he did not have any role to play apart from sort of inaugurating the thing. If I have some VIP who's available for my inauguration, I'll say, okay, come and inaugurate. But actual work was done by the railways themselves. Could be. But then Buckley's years is a nice name to give this period. And this separation of track, I'll just come to that, why you need to um, work, why was it required. This is a view from somewhere 1929. I'm looking at the locomotive, and I'm looking at decidedly British looking coaches, and you have a loco here and you loco at the back. There are two tracks, and since this is electrified, this must be after 29, sometimes like that. So this is the original view of the alignment which uh, Treadwell built. This is another modern view around 50s. People say that this is a Deccan Queen, but it couldn't be because the light is coming from the wrong side. So this is some other train, and you have the EA by 1 locomotive in the front, and you have a EF by 1 locomotive at the back, which is called a khekda because it had articulated body and it had coupled wheels like a steam engine. So this is pushing the thing, and here is the view today. There's only one track now. If you just go back, this is two tracks, this is one track, same place. So this is the what Buckley did, or not Buckley, or the Buckley years did, is separated these two tracks, and one track was taken on the other side of the mountain, and it became a single track. And this track was dedicated for the downhill traffic, which is the up track. Okay. So in 1950s, this is what was done. So you had your 1-2 coupled, co-jointed tunnel, A2 the free tunnel, the cut and cover, 3-4-5 was again um, co-joint tunnel, and here the track was separated. So the down track took a completely different alignment, and the up track single was taken here, and rest of it continued. Now here there is a tunnel which today is called 10, but we are not sure of what happened to this tunnel because the markings are not there in the tunnel. And these were the new tunnels which Buckley here built, that is 6A, 7A, 8A, 9A. They followed the nomenclature of these tunnels, 6 and 7, so this became AAA. And it was the construction looks completely different except towards the end. I'll show you what I mean by that. So this is what was done in the 1950s. Okay, let me show you something. This particular thing, at the end it goes and meets one co-joint tunnel. So this is this co-joint tunnel, and this is probably where one track went. This is a new track. Okay, forget about this. This is where one of the tracks went and met this thing. So it's probably that from here the train crossed over and went into this double tunnel. In this section, this is the only double track tunnel which has got the downhill track as well as the middle track. So, history of Bhor Ghat is they built a new line on the left, then they built one on the right, depending on the space available, and then they made it, try to straighten out the things. So the new line, which is laid in 80, sometimes it's on the left, sometimes it's on the right, and for the train it doesn't matter, but for a history buff, it matters why it was done in such a way. So this is probably the place where this track, which came in from here, went in. Look at this place. From 9A, it goes all the way and goes through this tunnel. So probably this is the place where it crossed over into this tunnel. Okay. Now, Buckley's role has been documented here. I mean, my friend Jayant Ramdasi, who works for the railways, he works the locomotives which run in the ghat, which are called the bankers. So he pushes trains from Karjat to Lonavala, and brakes trains which are coming from Lonavala to heavy trains, especially the freight trains which have inadequate brake power or they need better brake power, because all these locomotives have something called dynamic brakes. So normal brakes are friction brakes that you apply on the wheel, but dynamic brakes are electric brakes, so there is no friction as such. You are just using the motors to generate the braking force, and 4 locomotives and dynamic just allow a very heavy train to come down without use of, because when you're using the brakes, you're also generating the heat. When you generate the heat, you also lose brake power. You also lose your brake air pressure. There are technical difficulties in doing that. So locomotives with dynamic brakes are used to control heavy loads down the slope without friction. So that's why all these things. So Jayant is one of the people, one of the many ghat drivers who do that role. So once he was traveling on a material train and he saw a sort of plate, and a few days down the track, he was actually working a material train, so he had stopped there. So he cleaned up this plate. So this the credit goes to Jayant for discovering this plate, and it says opened on 1951 by Srimati K.C. Buckley, who is the wife of Chief Commissioner of Railways, and we were very happy to discover this. And actually, it is this plate which discovered started our quest that okay, we've found something. It's completely undocumented. If we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Nobody cares. Railways is just bothered with the running of the railways. They are the experts in that. Um, Historians won't go there. So it's only again the correct word is fools. People like us who will go and show, see the thing and make sense of it and connect the dots. Okay, so we are looking at fort. This I've already discussed. One thing is that the 1950 tunnels had marking in feet, which I'll show you. Um, this is another plaque which says tunnels 6A, 7A, 8A, 9A, where, for removing infringements in the Ghat. So the colonial spelling of Ghat is still carried out in 1948 to 50 at 38 lakhs by Hind Construction. Now, who is Hind Construction? So that is still, it is a company founded by Seth Walchand Hirachand, which I showed you in the first slide, where he's standing in the front of the tunnel near Tunnel 26 outside Khandala. So he's still doing that. And then HCC, Hindustan Construction, emerged from Tata Constructions. And HCC is now one of the largest infrastructure enterprises. And they are still in business, though they have some legal issues. Um, so this marks the separation of two gauges. So we found this plaque, and this is again shot by Jayant. This is how a typical Buckley era tunnel looks. It's very, very neat. The portals are very nice, uh, nicely finished, very neat. Interiors are rough, but the portals are very nicely finished. You have a 1951 marking on it, 1950. So this is one of the signatures of that age. Um, Again, you can see this is the old tunnel number 9A. 15 down is today's nomenclature, and the length is in feet, which is a little surprise to me, because I thought India switched to MKS system as soon as, or metric system as soon as we got independence, maybe slightly later, but that time we were certainly working in feet. Another portal from Buckley years. This is 7 down. Very neat, very tidy for the first 20 feet. After that, it's rough lined. This is a view from inside the tunnel, where you see a train. This is Hubli Express, which used to run in daytime at that time. And so the first thing is clear. After that, it's rough. This is the co-joint. There's where there's the only double line tunnel, and you have this is the line, the up line which is descending, and you have the middle line which is bidirectional through it. It's called Tunnel 19 now, and they've marked it. So less than, you forget what the number is, so it's there everywhere. Basically, what happens is that a person gets a contract to paint the number. So that person will paint the number regardless if the number is there. So it's written again and again. So this is a thing that we find. It's one of the quirks that we find in the railway operation. Okay, so now we're looking at the next stage, the timeline of the Bhor Ghat, the lower Bhor Ghat, which is around 1980s, when people realized that 2 tracks, they're not adequate. We need 3. So we call it as the contractor years, because it was not done by a personality, but it was done by contractors. So what they did is, earlier the track used to come here 8A, 9A, then it used to come into this tunnel. So they built this section of the track, and they ironed out all the angular motion that we had in the tracks, and it became all straight. And they built a new track. Okay, let me explain to you something. 18, new tunnel numbers, that is this 18, 20. Um, there's a new, the new track which I showed you around um, from Nagnath to Jamrung, that comes and joins here. Now that track also has got three viaducts. So essentially, if you're traveling from Monkey Hill, um, and you have viaduct number 1, 2, 3, then you again have viaduct number 1, 2, 3. So in 2012, they rationalized the numbers of the thing. So these are called viaduct 1, 1, 2, 3, and the ones further up the lines are now called 4, 5, 6. So we have photographs which show the last viaduct as number 3, and we also have a photograph which shows that now it is called viaduct number 6. Again, as a railway historian, these things are important. If we don't know these details, nobody cares also. So the just for honoring the people who did this, there was a Ghai construction from Pune, and there was a Harbhajan Sarabjit associates from Aurangabad, and Desai constructions from Mumbai. These are the people who built this particular section of the track. And third line actually rationalized efficient working of the ghats, and it optimized running of the trains through the ghat. And it's earlier, now you have a bidirectional line which is usually used by the banking locomotives to go back, so a train climbing will take this train, a descending train will take this track, and if there is another train which has to go, sometimes there's a freight train which is climbing here, so then they'll send a faster train in the middle section because bidirectional, or the descending bankers would come on this section, or two trains could descend at the same time, or two trains could climb at the same time. All these permutation combinations are possible because of the third track. We're increasing the capacity. Okay. Now, what happens is that if you look at the overview of the Bhor Ghat, which we'll take in a subsequent presentation some other day, this track keeps shifting. The new track, like this is the oldest track, right? 1850s mein banaya hua hai. But this section of the track is built in 1980s. So the 1980 track has sometimes it comes to the left, sometimes it comes to the right, and to connect with the other track, they have to move something out of the way, and it results in very visible kinks. A track is coming straight down, and then it suddenly turns and joins the adjacent track, and another new track starts on the left. I'll show you in photographs so you know what I'm talking about. And these kinks are because of joining the very old track with the very new track. And we have observed this at least at Monkey Hill and also here. Okay. Here is the view. This is the up track going to Mumbai. I'm standing on the down track, which is going to Pune, and this is the mid track. And these are light bankers. The bankers are the locomotives which push the train up the gradient, so that the load doesn't come on the couplers, and also to give extra power to the locomotive. The front locomotive doesn't have to do as much as efforts as it would have to otherwise. These are all processes which are formed after numerous accidents, that a train parted and the coach rolled back, people were killed, etc., etc. So these are procedures which come after a lot of efforts, a lot of loss of life. But today, all trains are backed. So this is going into 13 mid. This is the other side of 13 mid, and you can see workers carrying in rails. People are there 24/7, highly dedicated people. You won't work there, you're kilometers from civilization, nothing. You have no creature comforts, but the people work there, and they're very happy and they're very cheerful, and they know they're making a difference to the economy of the country. So that's the way these people work. Hats off to their dedication. And this, what you see here, are steel bars. Basically, if a boulder starts, it comes from the top, it arrests that going into the track. So this is one of the things you see on a lot of tunnels. Again, all these steps are part of the thing that after so many accidents, someday you had a boulder falling on that. So they built it up bit by bit so that you have 24/7 availability of the tracks. And this is a hut for these people. They made provision. There is actually a drinking water line throughout the ghat. for them. The earlier photo I showed you of two bankers. So I said, okay, two bankers. Normally we go into a tunnel immediately after a train, so we don't get trapped. But while we were in the tunnel, we heard another horn and a train came behind us, and we had to. Now I'm pretty generously built. My friend Lalam, who's here somewhere, he's very skinny, so he could go inside. But I also had a backpack, so I had to literally stand in this gutter with water while a train went by. But I just want to show you the excitement which is part of our lives. We don't want encourage anybody to take a risk, but you have to be very careful. Actually, we went after a train went, so that we follow the train, and we have say 5-10 minutes before we can emerge from the tunnel, because you don't want to be caught inside a tunnel with the train, but it happens sometimes. So you always think ahead, that you have an escape plan in your mind. Again, I don't want to give you tricks of the trade. I don't want to encourage anybody to go there. There are lots of things you can do for thrills. This is not one of them. But if you are a railway enthusiast, you're not going to listen to me in any case. Okay. So this is something we found. It's a cattle guard, cow catcher, what they call a cow catcher. And we know this is from many years ago, because this thing is called a plug. The earlier braking system that we had was a vacuum brake system, and the vacuum pipe would be sucking in air, so it would be plugged onto this plug, and it would generate the vacuum, and then when it was in use, that pipe would go and connect to the coaches. So this must be around from maybe 1980s sometime. But this section is so remote that it's not worth recovering this part. Neither are the people around to go and take it away. Normally, anything which is not locked or which is not secured will get pilfered. But in this case, it's there. It's lying from. We believe it's a part of history. Okay. One of the views, this is at the bottom of the ghat. Something I want to show you about the ghat. Like I told you, that all trains which are moving uphill are pushed by locomotives, and here you have three WAG7 locomotives. These locomotives are about 5,500 HP each. Now the banking driver is in the last loco, the front cab of the last loco. So that guy is actually not seeing anything. My friend Jayant I talked to you about. So he works these trains, and he sits here. He sees the second locomotive in front. So essentially, he's blind. He's just looking at his gauges. Now they have, of course, sophisticated walkie-talkies, and they have communication methods. But when I started rail fanning, there were no methods of communication. So they relied on the current, the ammeter. They relied on the brake pressure. They relied on the experience. They leaned out and checked what's happening in the front. So their job is to push the train out from Karjat. So he'll start pushing the train. The front guy will be eating vada pav or something like that. And till the first diamond, that guy won't do anything, because once the train is clear and the front guy knows, okay, now the train is really being pushed by the bankers. There have been accidents in which the front guy started the train and the bankers were not coupled, and it went up the slope, and at one point it stalled and it parted, and part of it came back. People died or something happened. So now the procedure is that the front guy will do nothing. The front guy will sit till the train comes onto the main line. So first diamond, it comes from the platform, it comes onto the main line. Then they're sure that now the train is moving because of the bankers, and then the front guy opens up, and he remains at a steady speed of 55 kilometers per hour till they cross the entire section. What I'm trying to show here is that the last logo contains a driver and an assistant driver, but these are three locomotives. So a lot of things can go wrong, a lot of things to be checked. So they have a second assistant driver who's in the front cab of the front locomotive. And in case there is a problem, if they shut down or they have any alarm in the middle of the section, it's this guy's duty to help out, because the task is very complex, and there's a lot of checking to be done. So this is what they're doing, and you can see the gradient. And this mountain you see in front of you is the Songiri mountain. So that is what is visible here, and from here it will turn right and go to. This is just out of Palasari. Okay. This is not from the section, actually. This is from Monkey Hill. But what I want to show you is this track should have gone straight, in the path of the train. But no, that it has turned left and gone on the left, because that's the new track. So this is the kink I'm talking about. Like this train is traveling on its own. It's not crossed, but the kink is causing it to come this way. So this is a view from Monkey Hill. It is not. Um, it's not part of this section, but I wanted to show you the kinks which exist in the Bhor Ghat. That's one of the discoveries that we have, that because of the new track merging with the old track, these two are the uh, old tracks. The one on the left after Monkey Hill to um, Khandala, Lonavala is a new track. The one on this side is the new track towards Mumbai. So there is a crossover. So they have to shift all the tracks on one side. So this is why this train in the middle, which could have come straight, but it didn't. Earlier, if there was no track on this side, it would just come straight onto this. But and this track would have connected straight here. But that this is how it looks today. Just little details that you have to see. Um, what is our finding after so many years of research that treadwell alignment carried two tracks that we know. She did so many tunnels, and then she switched to the other side because there were Welsh miners who were working in India. They started digging along the mountain. These are our finds that this is not important in the sense you've seen what it is, but this is the conclusion of our findings. And there are some mysteries which we do not know why it has happened. And um, okay, let me skip this. Something interesting for you is there's this mound of dirt around the viaduct one, uh, which doesn't exist during construction. So we wonder why it does. There is no stream of water significant to carry so much of mud, but it's there. So we do not know why it is there. It's one of the unanswered questions of this section. We don't know what this gallery does, but we have some clue of what it is. Whether this tunnel is um, the co-joint tunnel, whether it was tunnel number 10, we do not know. These are the mysteries. Okay, so what's next for us? It is that we've got to finish a lot of other walks and document the entire Bhor Ghat. Uh, we were going to say 2019-20, but life comes in the way of our rail fanning, and COVID comes in the way of doing anything now. So once that sorts out, we will be doing it. It's not going away, and we're going to document all this thing in a document. In fact, I'm thinking of putting it down in a book, something like a Bhor Ghat 101 for the say non-rail fan audience, because rail fans know everything, right? You don't have to teach them anything. But for a person who wants to know, okay, we saw there was a sideways tunnel inside another tunnel. What was it doing? So then my book would at least open up those things. It's not. It's meant to be in public domain. We want to publish it as a research which is available to everyone, rather than make money out of it. That's not the intent of that. Maybe I'll enroll for a PhD in industrial archaeology. That's what my aim is. Okay, thank you. I'm done. If you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer.
Apurva, thank you so much for sharing your passion. I think you have definitely enthused a lot of people, I'm sure, seeing by the comments which have come in.
Yes.
We look at the questions now.
Yes, please.
You mentioned the traffic of 125 trains. Does that include freight trains passing
Yes,
through
yes.
the
Freight trains, passenger trains, departmental trains, uh, parcel trains, locomotives moving back and forth,
okay.
and a lot of them. Yeah.
And why you have an illustration, a picture of some viaducts which are filled up. What could have been the reason for filling up those viaducts?
I suppose they were weakening. They were weakening. They've been around from 1850s, and they've been carrying loads of trains.
Strengthen them.
Strengthen them, yes. So they could be weakening. So it's possibly to. I wouldn't.
Happiness.
Yes.
Happiness was asking, why are some bankers twins and some triplets?
Actually, the current thing is that the freight trains are 4,500 tons and above, so they need three. So because you have a 12-coach train, they're not going to have a special set of bankers. That railway runs for, it runs on money. So that money is generated from freight. So all their infrastructure is around freight, and they run as a social service, passenger services. So the hardware which is in place for freight is what is used. So you will now almost not see a single banker. You'll always see two or three. And multiple locos allows you no redundancy. In case one shuts down, then the other one is still there. And of course, you can add, you can multiply the power, and that sort of power is required for a heavy train.
You mentioned
Yes.
the disruption on account of Mauki Mauli and the
Yeah.
collapse over there, and you did talk about an alternative route. But
Yes.
was this significant enough to impact the economy, so to say, of the
No,
of
no, no.
Western India in any
Not,
way?
not, not, not at all. It's something. We were just surprised that we had a disruption in 2019
Uh-huh.
on the track from Monkey Hill to Naganath. One of the viaducts, which is called as Zenith Waterfall Viaduct, the part from Monkey Hill, and it just got washed away.
Okay.
So what they've done is now uh, they've extended the viaduct number 3, and they've made new columns which go all the way down to the valley. So that caused the this particular line to fail pre-COVID for about 3 to 4 months. But India is too big. I mean, it doesn't get impacted. Yes, a lot of things got this, but the people worked round the clock, and people were sleeping inside the tunnels because trains are not running. They had a huge workforce, and you would see the reports of all this in the media, and they made this thing work. So bad things happen. Railways is always prepared. A disaster could come your way anyway, and but this was, in a Victorian age where you had nothing. I mean, if something
Ankush,
happens today, yes, please. Yeah.
Ankur's question
So
was, does the original set of plaques still survive from the Amrutanjan Bridge, which was demolished?
yes, they do.
Because he
Actually,
says that
Amrut,
it had names of British officers he recollects. And where can he find it?
it's below the. I don't know. After demolition, I haven't gone there. I've traveled below it, but I haven't. I could share a photograph with you, which shows you. It did it have? Yes, he's right. There was a. I'll just find some older photographs which I have, and I could show you the names. And basically, the plaque is an inauguration of the road and not the viaduct.
Okay.
So it says that this road is for the word they use is intercourse between Konkan and the hinterland, etc., etc. So that plaque used to be, it's been moved around. Earlier it used to be somewhere else. Then when they constructed the expressway, it came below the arches, and so that is there. But he's right. There was a second plaque which gave the names of the people who have constructed, but I have no idea where it is, because that comes under the road department. It's not a part of the
Oh,
railways, so we
okay.
don't go there very often.
Somebody had a question. Which books would you recommend in the construction of the Khandala Ghat?
It's a big question. Ian Kerr's book, I could just, if you look at Ian Kerr, Indian Railways, you'll find the list of his, this thing. Then there is, it's a difficult question because all those books are just theoretical. It's people like us who have to pen down the history. Very sadly, it's not been done.
You were
So
saying railways don't have a historian on board?
they have the set of literature, but how do you interpret
Okay.
it? How could we do this research of how this looked, how that looked, because those things are available in the public domain.
Hmm.
I'm
Uh,
sure railways has an account of every nut bolt, but it's all hidden in their libraries, which are not open to a commoner like me. So unless I come with the credentials and they say, okay, aa jao library ke andar and do all the research. But a person who has to hold a job and who has to, earn a living can't do that research unless you are dedicated to it. We were helped a lot by Dr. Ian Kerr. And now that he is gone, all that load is actually come to our shoulders, because if we pass, finished, the next generation would have
will
no
not have
clue.
this
No, they
information.
will have no know the continuity of what actually happened. And so,
Shirish Kolatkar has an observation. He said many times when there are triple bankers,
yes,
one of the locomotives is shut off and only two are functional.
only
What's the
downhill,
reason for
only
that?
downhill, only downhill to save power. If they're
Okay.
going light, you can run with one locomotive, not a problem.
Hmm.
So uphill, all three are always live. Yes, please.
Okay, just scrolling down.
Uh, I
Uh,
would encourage you all to visit my Facebook page, and it contains about 4,500 images of railways, and that's my only interest in life. So you could have a look at that, and we could
uh,
connect. Yes, please.
Sachit's question is: was there a single banker in the first place? They seem to be very rare.
Um, Single banker, yes, of course. So single bankers still exist, but if they have a single banker available and a freight train comes, then they have to wait for a triple banker. So now, in efficiency, they say, okay, put everything free. To the best of my knowledge, now you have only triple bankers, or at least double bankers, because there are two WCM3s which are running as doubles, but all others are running as triples.
Parag wants to know that when you were doing a research, could you see or locate any walking paths earlier used by traders? And when exactly did vehicular guard traffic get opened?
I would know. The vehicular ghat traffic must be much earlier. And in fact, I'll tell you where. Uh, uh, I've shown you only the first 8 kilometers. When we talk of the middle ghat section, maybe a few months. Let uh, let COVID finish. Let monsoons finish. Then we start again our trekking, and then I would have another presentation of what's there, and then I could show you because those are the maps which I'll have to show you about the existing road versus old road and how it interacted with the railways. So
Where
again, I know very little about the road. Yes, please.
where can
Ask me
Aryan
about
find
railways.
information about the Pune Miraj meter line?
Apurva Bahadur.
So can you
Honestly,
find it on your Facebook page?
no, yes, absolutely. Again, uh, Ashish Kuelkar, I don't know if he's online, and I am the only two human beings alive who have walked the entire meter gauge section and the broad gauge section of that line. Shindavane Ghat, what we call as Shindavane Ghat. So, but currently, Shindavane Ghat and all those sections are being doubled and electrified. So earlier on, you had 4 hours, 5 hours, you would walk and you wouldn't meet a second person. Now you have 100 trucks and you have 1,000 people working who don't take kindly to anybody carrying a camera. So it's not very welcoming there. So it'll take at least 10 years for the ghat to go back to its remote place, and then there's nobody, and then rail fans can take over the landscape. So once that happens, then we will start looking at that again. But 2007, 2008, we have done a lot of work on the abandoned section. What happened is that Google Earth used to be low res at one time, and then one day it became high res, and then Ashish called me in the morning. He says, "Okay, there's a well on top of a mountain." I said, "Why would anybody build a well on top of the mountain?"
Hmm.
He says, "Tu hai, tu dekh le udhar." And really, there was a well on top. I said, "Then we got to go." And this was something 20th of June and 28th June we were there. We were actually physically there because very close to Pune. And then we found out that there is actually a tunnel there, and there is actually a ventilation shaft there. So I said, "Hai to fir andar jana hai." Then we went inside the tunnel, and there were bats, and there were inches of goo. Now I'm not just talking of. I have photographs, okay, and they're there on the net. So we are the ones who can talk about that section with a lot of conviction because we have done it with our own feet. We
Uh,
spill
do
blood
you
doing. Yes, please. Yeah,
do
yeah.
you organize any rail fanning walks and
No,
treks? And
no. It's not for everyone. I can't take responsibility for anybody's safety.
correct.
So it's only two Buddha log who go together, and we know the risks we are taking, and we go together, but then we split, or three of us go in a very very difficult place. We don't. It's not for everyone. Anybody who's interested in this will not stop if I ask them. But I can't say, "Ke jao." You want to go, it's your call. You end up in law and order, your problem. How many of you have seen inside of a jail lockup? I think I'll raise my finger. But that's so. If you're interested in doing that, it's your call because railways will not ask you to go somewhere. But if you go there and if you have a genuine interest, sky's the limit.
So if you can
Yeah,
tell us in short, how exactly is the stone masonry arches checked for strength?
I have no idea.
or
I have
its
no.
residual life.
I'm sure that civil engineering is it's a very well developed science, and people would know how to look at, and they would have signs, right? There are people who are checking uh, the one department does that job. In fact, we have a very interesting train. It is called a bridge checking DMU. It's a
Uh-huh.
diesel multiple unit. It's a single coach train, which has an arm which goes below the bridge, and it checks that do you have a crack here? Do you have any giving I mean, they have their own protocol, and they would know that this bridge is taking weak. Actually, theoretically, all these bridges are weak, and they say that a loco shouldn't stop. Stop in the sense, if it stops on top of the viaduct when it starts, like if you start walking, if you walk on a rug, you push back the rug with your feet, especially if the rug is not nicely grounded. So same thing, if you're on top of a viaduct and the loco starts, it's applying these hundreds of tons of pressure on the foundation of the viaduct, and it could collapse. So a few years back, at least, I knew there was a rule which said that please try not to stop on the viaduct. Stop ahead on the ground if you have to stop in the middle of the section. So those bridges are weakened, but people are looking after them, and there are 24/7. There are people who are maintaining them and keeping a track on them. So I won't worry much about it. Um,
I think what we'll take, what I will make the last question. I'm
yes,
sure there
please.
must be many memorable ones, but somebody wants to know
Yeah.
which has been your most memorable find.
Uh, well, I think the meter gauge in this section, there would be there are uh, well, it's too big a subject to discuss, but
I know it's an
yeah,
unfair
yeah,
question, but
it's
you
an
can tell
yeah.
us
No,
it's
no, but
your.
we've been doing it for the last 20 years, 25 years. So being able to answer questions uh, and locate uh, places which you can see in ancient views, and for your promotional materials you had two old photographs, so there are hundreds of old photographs, and we can uh, say where is this place, and that's the sort of expertise that we have built in, and finding all those places, modern places, with respect to the ancient images, is been the good find, and it's not one, it's multiples.
A then and
Again,
now kind of.
yeah, it's not one, it's multiples. And
Yeah.
the disclaimer is that it's not my work, it's our friends, 4 5 people who have been working together. So I may be the visible one, but there are the credit goes to all of them who have helped me out. This is something which I can't do alone, so it has to be a group effort.
So thank you,
So
Apurva Bahadur.
yeah.
It was a great experience. You really shared your passion, and it's really come out
Yes, sir.
in the appreciative comments and the many questions. And we've overshot our time. So thank you for your indulgence in entertaining all the questions.
Yeah, thank you so
I think we
much.
had a very interested audience too. Thank you very much, and thank you for attending.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Connect on Facebook. Apurva Bahadur. Yeah. Okay. Bye.